Hello and welcome to the Curated Beauty Podcast. I'm Jessica Christie, CEO of Beauty Culture Med Spa and the founder of the new functional and regenerative business, Cultured Wellness. From my start as a physician assistant to now not only being a practitioner but leading my own businesses, I've been on a unique journey through health, beauty, and entrepreneurship. Join us as we explore everything from skincare secrets to leadership lessons. Whether you're passionate about beauty or striving to balance life's challenges, this is your space to connect, learn, and shine. Let's dive in. Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Curated Beauty Podcast. Today, I had the pleasure of sitting down with the incredible Danielle Oyasu. She is a nurse practitioner and the owner of Beautifully New in Park Ridge, Illinois, which is a comprehensive medical spa and also now offering wellness in the form of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Danielle and I first crossed paths during our business coaching sessions with Kaylee Lindholm, and it quickly became clear that we had much more to share than just our passion for aesthetics. As business owners, leaders, working mothers, wives, we found common ground in the challenges and the triumphs of really balancing it all while striving for peace and success and what success looks like all of us individually. In this candid conversation, we really dive deep into what it means to feel seen and heard as women and what to do when you just don't. And sometimes in the throes of motherhood and the hustle and bustle of life, you can really get lost. So Danielle and I share our perspectives, advice, and a little bit of our own journeys to help you navigate the complexities of life with grace and resilience. This podcast is really for anyone. So sit back and relax and enjoy this heartfelt discussion where two women entrepreneurs come together to uplift and to empower you. Okay, here are two girls, I would say women, that are in the Midwest. And I love my community, especially Midwesterners. They are the best. I am in the Mitten and Danielle is in the Windy City. And when we say in the city, she's in her beautiful new high rise as an empty nester now. And I want to just welcome you to the podcast. Here we are.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. As usual, just chatting with you in general is always fun. So this will be...
Isn't it amazing how you can find your people in this industry? Because I think that so much of this industry can be a racket and so much can be like weeding through fake people, people that are put up on stage that really shouldn't be there, people that are in it for the wrong reasons. And I feel like I would definitely like to include that we met through KLC Consulting, which is our business coaching group. And that was really huge. And we just had an instant connection for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that surrounding yourself with like-minded people is so important anyway. But then when you find those people that you're like, I like you, you understand what we're going through and you're so innovative. And anytime you joined on those calls, I was like mesmerized because you obviously have a lot of great ideas and great info to share. So
I feel the same likewise. And I think too, we met actually for the first time at LAMCA or LAMCA or however you call it, which is a great conference out in Beverly Hills. And Kaylee was there too to kind of facilitate that. And, you know, I think the beautiful thing about our relationship is we both carry like sort of different lines and some crossover too, but like we can have the good critical thinking conversations and also like just such a non-competitive mindset to be like, let's talk about this and why you like this. And it's so interesting when people actually put down their arms of like, no, my product's better. My product's better.
Totally.
Like you realize that so much of it actually has to do with relationships and personal experience. And isn't that what it's all about?
Yes. And I welcome that. I want to be challenged. I want someone to tell me their point of view or things that they're doing differently. It doesn't challenge, it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't make me question my own values or my own views on things. You know, I want to get to know people on every level. And obviously we all come from different points of view business wise and what products we want to carry and what direction we're going in our businesses too. I'm fascinated by what you've been doing lately. And
okay, yeah, let's talk about that, like the wellness side, because we were just chatting before we hit record about like both of us are on hormone replacement therapy. I just compared a picture of my skin to, and I'll show you, but obviously the podcasters cannot see because you're listening, but look at the difference in my skin from last year to
Crazy.
this year. And like, obviously here, I did all the things. Like I was doing every treatment, like Botox, filler, Sculptra,
Yeah, nothing changed.
lasers, but it's wild how much hormones, especially for me, testosterone has really changed my skin. What's been your journey with all of that?
Yeah, it's so funny because I started getting testosterone probably maybe 8 years ago.
Wow. So you were like a pioneer.
I had a primary care doctor that did also functional medicine, and she listened to my symptoms and she was great about suggesting that. And it was great. I fell off during COVID. It was 3 years before I got the testosterone again. And I didn't even realize you're so in it and you're so mired down in all of the symptoms and what's happening to your body that I didn't even correlate the fact that, yeah, duh, I need the testosterone again.
Yeah.
And I really didn't do any research on why we needed it or why I needed it, why I started really looking into hormone replacement therapy when I entered menopause. And I had a hot flash on a plane coming home from Florida. And I was like,
did you think you were going to die? Because I hear like the first one, you're like, oh my God, this is it for me.
I was like, wait, this is my life now. I thought I was going to strip naked in the middle of the front, like this dude next to me. And I looked at my husband and I'm like, something's wrong. Like I'm flushed. I'm trying to take off as many layers as I can. And I remember thinking, oh, hell to the no, I'm not doing this. So right around that same time, Oprah had put out some information on what she had been going through and how we don't have to suffer and all this other stuff. So I listened to that. And then I just started doing, obviously, all the research I could and figuring out, yeah, duh, you need your estrogen. I'm on estrogen now, testosterone too, progesterone, which progesterone during my lifetime, suffering through PMS would have helped me. I mean, I think my kids probably would have had a different childhood.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And your postpartum would have been so different. I think about that all the time. Like I used to wake up because right after you have your baby, your progesterone just like takes a nosedive. And I remember waking up, like, talk about a night sweat. Like my sheets were drenched. Like I didn't even know that you could have that much sweat come out of your pores. I would have to change my clothing. And like, if I would have just been told, here's a little topical progesterone to support your postpartum period, like it's 100% going to happen. Just like 100% of us will go through menopause. And you are so lucky that you had a functional provider like that early in the game. Because how old were you then when you first started working with them and like doing testosterone?
I was probably 45. And I will tell you, I went to my OB and told her I was on testosterone and she said, I can't treat you anymore.
Yeah.
And it was so awkward too, because she's a friend of my husband's. They went to med school together. And she said to me, what are the reasons you're on it? And I told her, fatigue, low libido, weight gain, all of the things, night sweats. She said, well, I'm going to refer you to a sex therapist. And I was like, am I supposed to now tell you that my husband and I know where everything is? It is not physical.
And like, it was okay before. So like what changed? I think it's not. Yeah. It's so interesting.
Therapist is not going to help me with this problem. And I just left feeling like I was doing something dirty. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm going against every other medical providers or other. So it is just so interesting. I think things are changing again, like everything else in life. I think now that we know better, we do better. Mm-hmm. And I hope that's the case because I really do feel for the women that came before us, like the fact that they suffered through this.
I know it really breaks my heart. And actually I get DMs from women all the time because now that we have the wellness functional side of our business, which is sort of separate, but sort of together because aesthetics and wellness, like I'm writing a training right now on the fusion of those two things. I can't come up with a good acronym. It's so funny because like, I think wellness, aesthetic, fusion technique. And I'm like, waft, like that doesn't sound very good. The waft technique. I don't know. I'm not good at naming things, but I will tell you that now that I have this other part of the business, I get DMs every day when I talk about certain things or make certain videos and people are like, oh my gosh, I remember my mom going through this. I'm so glad that I don't have to. And it's so wild to think about how many women for this long, like again, 100% of them have gone through menopause that are of age. Like we all will. And they were told, you just got to get through it. And then once it's done, then you'll go back to living your life and you won't have the hot flashes anymore. And it's like, wow, what a disservice because A, you're setting yourself up for longevity with preventing your heart, protecting your bones, protecting your brain, like huge things, decreasing risk of many cancers. And the like Lone Ranger that I just had a podcast come out this past Monday. And at this point, it will be a couple weeks where it was like talking about how testosterone is something where we'll get women optimized. They're feeling better. They're not having night sweats as much. But the thing that is hard to get like down is the libido thing. And testosterone has really been the only thing that's really helped women regain their libido and not make them feel like they just have to hang up that part of their lives. And like, it's
exactly.
not.
Yeah. Like that's not an important part of a relationship. Like that should just be so minimal. Like, oh, you're fine. What do you care anymore? And that is such an interesting perception in our society, or it had been before. Like you're just not going to have sex anymore and go about your merry way, when honestly, intimacy is so important. I mean, to keep a relationship happy and healthy. And I can preach that from the mountaintops. Like that has changed so much. My husband's on testosterone too now.
You know what the crazy thing is, though, is that like how much of a psychological factor it is, even beyond physiologic, and how when you have those two puzzle pieces that come together, you're like, oh my gosh, like it gives you a pep in your step. It makes you feel like more of a woman. You feel like more of a partner, and it bleeds into every part of your life. Don't you agree?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I will look at a patient who comes into the office and immediately I can tell you, without doing any lab testing, by just looking at her or looking at her demeanor and how she's addressing me and how she's talking to me, what hormone she needs. It is night and day to me now. So
it's like your sixth sense. Wait, so are you guys doing hormone replacement therapy at Be Well Now?
We are. So we're doing it differently than I know. It's interesting. So Kenji, my husband, who's an ER physician, he studied under Neil Razia. You know, I
love him.
He's also an ER physician. Also, he's very against the pellets. My thought process.
Kenji is Neil.
Neil Razia is against pellets. Kenji feels also a little bit more that he would like me to be on oral estrogen, and also we really haven't discussed testosterone as far as I know. You're on the injectable. I listened to your podcast the other day, and I do the pellets because I just feel like it's one less thing for me to have to worry about taking. Just for me, it's easier.
It's like know thy patient, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I had so many patients coming in requesting the pellets. Mm-hmm. So we did find a company that we kind of paired up with. They've got wonderful training too, and I really like them. It's a Vexipel out of Texas, but I think hormone replacement of any kind, other than obviously we don't want to do synthetic, but if you're going to do the creams, for me, I tried the cream testosterone. I could only get my level up to about 100. Mm-hmm. And it just, for me, that's not optimized. So we'll see. This is now my first round of pellets again. It's been a while. So we'll see what my labs are. I think I'm going to need a little bump.
Don't you think like people are either Neil heads or they're like not? He does things so differently, and it's resonated with me so strongly. Like, for example, mentioning oral estradiol, like when I go through menopause, I will 1000% take oral estrogen. And if you went to your OB and you said like over 50, I'm going to be on oral estrogen, they would like bonk their head against the wall.
Exactly. So
and they have no idea that there's so many, just like progesterone synthetics and real progesterone, like progestins versus progesterone. There's so many benefits of real progesterone and not just mimicking symptoms. And same thing with oral estradiol. But I also agree with you with pellets. They're not maybe always the preferred method, but they definitely are such a good key that we have in terms of unlocking success for people with hormone therapy. And if like someone like me, I'm kind of non-compliant, although when things work, you're way more likely to be compliant. That I feel like, with being in perimenopause, it's different. Like, I don't know, things are always changing. It's harder for people to be on sort of pellet therapy, I think. But yeah, I think that it's a really good method, and I'm glad we have it for certain people.
Yeah, again, yes, exactly. The more we can offer patients as far as what their lifestyles are, however they want to choose to treat themselves, or we can treat them, is great. Like I said, I think pellets are very well known in our community. I think there are a couple providers that offer them, and patients had already been kind of exposed to that. So that's what they were coming and requesting.
Okay, so we've both been open for 5 years, which is so unique.
Crazy. Yeah.
We celebrated around the same time. I'm planning like a gala because I feel like I should celebrate. We got to celebrate,
100%. Yes, do it.
And how long have you been offering hormone replacement?
We literally this is our first month. So yeah. And obviously I know you did the same. You did you have to be so well versed on this, so schooled on it. And my husband's our medical director. I don't technically have to have a medical director, but it is what I just have that comfort zone. So he did the Neil Razier whole program of like 80 hours while I'm still trying to run the med spa and trying to take care of the aesthetics portion. So then I took another couple different trainings. And so we kind of combined our knowledge and it's working really well. Yeah.
I love that.
We'll have like a meeting of the minds, everyone. Well, so what do you think? What are your thoughts? So it is very interesting.
I will tell you too, because there's so many different modes of getting these hormones into your body. I tried also the oral testosterone from Quicksilver. There's a oral serum, like a lipid nano that you can swallow. And I just didn't it was night and day with the injectable testosterone cypionate. And so different strokes for different folks. I couldn't get my levels probably high enough.
Yeah.
And I also like what you said about 100 just isn't high enough for you. There's a lot of different people out there. And I've talked about this in previous podcasts too, that are leaders in replacing women's hormones. And they are massively underdosing / almost shaming women for wanting a testosterone that's higher when, we're treating symptoms. It's the same thing as aesthetics. We're treating a symptom in front of us, a problem in front of us. And one person's going to need 4 syringes and one person's going to need 2. But it's the end result of what we're looking at. And we're really looking at what our optimal levels are, not just normal for your age.
Absolutely. And just I've heard you say this before, but who's choosing these random numbers that are supposed to be in the normal range? We just kind of arbitrarily decided. Mm-hmm. So it's not based on a patient's symptoms, or we're not doing harm to a patient by elevating that at all. If their symptoms are under control and you're feeling better, then amen. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that people are really starting to be able to educate themselves, and that's why I love this platform, because it has really helped women to be like so many people, even just with the podcast that just came out on testosterone, they were like, I felt like you were talking to me, the symptoms that you were describing and how I was feeling, it resonated with me so much. And I'm so glad that now I've started this journey, which is crazy. Now, will you have a different sector of your business or a different wellness provider that will do this? Or are you kind of doing it right now?
So right now, we have one of our nurse practitioners just completed her women's health nurse practitioner program. So she was really interested in starting to spearhead the programs. And, she had been a little exposed to it a little bit in her education, but it didn't go into detail. We different educational programs that offer that. But so she's spearheading it. And it's been so helpful because she brings her knowledge from that world into the aesthetics as also. So we just combined it into one practice. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. How are you getting your patients? How are you marketing it to them? Are you talking to them in the room, or?
Most of them had already come to us. It's so funny. I think they see it all over. Our patients are so savvy, right? With the social media and with looking things up online. And so they started asking us, are you ever thinking about offering this? I know because we'll talk. I've had patients so long-term now that we'll talk about our lives and things like that. And they'll tell me they see another provider for all of these symptoms, and we'll start talking, and it's obvious they need hormone optimization. So they started kind of coming to us and requesting it. And I was referring so many people out to this one physician who treats a lot of people in our area. She's just so hard to get into, hard to schedule, which is kind of why I fell off as well, because it was I can't get in with you. I work and things like that. So anytime we can offer more wonderful medicine opportunities, better.
I've noticed too that a lot of our patients are switching to us because there's a guy locally that does it, but he won't ever offer virtual. Even for people who are on maintenance, he still makes them come in. And so it's you can easily send an off-site lab script if that works for someone, if they're traveling, if they're a little bit too far, but they like how you do things. I felt like that's been really nice. And then also just you don't have to physically examine someone. And so as long as, you're following the rules with whatever it needs to be per state, it's so nice to be able to offer that to people too. I've noticed that they really love that.
There's a huge convenience factor. Yeah, you have to meet people where they're at. If you can't expand your hours or meet, like exactly, offer Zoom appointments, or I've noticed that in all aspects of even the aesthetic world is you really have to try to understand where your patients are coming from. Are they work? Do they work? Do they go to school? They're moms. Our business kind of falls off during vacation time because parents are home with their kids. So yeah, we try to be accommodating to our patients' scheduling.
Also, do you feel like are you expanding beyond hormones right now, or do you feel like you will with functional and wellness?
I think right now we're good with where we're at this. I kind of want to get this under control. And like I said, we're just starting this, but I'm certainly interested in it myself. I'm totally, I think it's just fascinating. I think the whole biohacking and our facility is a great problem to have, but we are so maxed out on space that we don't have the room to really do a lot more. Like I'd love to do IVs. I'd love to offer NAD IVs, things like that, but I don't have the room for someone to sit there for an hour.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? Like when we opened 5 years ago, never did we think, and you guys expanded too within your space, right? Or like you were able to take more?
We moved I started in my husband's office. He actually was fascinating. He was treating addiction and he was only using the office twice a week. So I started utilizing his offices, taking treatment rooms and things like that because it was more space than he needed. But then we obviously, after about, I think it was 2 years, we found a space locally. But when I tell you, I was having a nervous breakdown because the space was so much larger than I thought I needed. But the landlord kind of talked me into it. He was like, listen, you're going to grow. You're going to do great. And I took a leap of faith and did the whole 3,600 square feet. And now I wish I had 5,000 square feet. So if I could talk to anybody about, I know that it's, like I said, you're taking a risk, but.
We got so lucky because I had the same feeling when we moved into our suite. It was like a little bit over 2,500 square feet, but it was just me. And then I brought a provider with me that I had worked with previously. And literally the first day of work, we were like, we don't need a receptionist. We can just answer the phone between patients. The first day we realized that was so crazy. It was so busy right away. And then during COVID, the suite next door, because it's not a standalone, it's in a medical office building. The suite next door, they were not paying their rent. And so the landlord was kind of just letting them stay there because it was during COVID and what are they going to do,
Right.
And so my husband was ran into him at Chipotle and was like, hey, if you ever have any more space, let us know. And he's like, well, actually. And so they ended up getting evicted and we took over their space. And so now we have 6,000 there. And then we have our training spot. And so we have about 10,000 square feet. I just need to I need to change around a little bit of it to make it more, efficient. But it's crazy because now I feel like I'm still out of space. I want to hire all these people and I'm like, well, where are they going to go? We just changed around our checkout area a little bit to make it more efficient with that and made a product room. But yeah, it is a huge challenge of space.
We've had to be really creative with how we utilize any free existing space. I started off with my own office. This is hilarious. Started off with my own office, with my own bathroom, and I was in such heaven. And then as we've expanded and, I have no office.
My first office, now that's one of our top injectors rooms. And now I have one that a different one that we're I need to get rid of this so that it can be usable space, which is good. Such a good problem to have. But as soon as you turn on the faucet of the wellness, it's crazy how many people want it, how many people are sick and don't feel well. And then just the optimization that everyone needs is crazy. And it's fun because it relates to us directly, just like aesthetics. I think that's why we're so passionate about it.
It's so true. Yeah. Our patients are going through exactly everything we're going through. We've seen it. We've felt the effects now that, I can preach it from the mountaintops now because my husband feels so much better. He looks 10 years younger and feels 10 years younger. Yeah. And he's like a new person, myself included with the hormone therapy. So I can't say it enough. Just
it's crazy
out there feeling not yourself and you're feeling, you're of this age group or whatever the case may be. We've even had people in their 30s come in and not feel great and have really low testosterone. And I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, that's a new thing. We've been seeing a lot of males that actually have kidney insufficiency, adrenal fatigue, thyroid dysfunction, and low testosterone, which obviously you have to be real careful when they're young and they need a boost of their testosterone. We're obviously trying to maximize with non-testosterone modes, but And infertility. Infertility is huge. We're working on a pre-pregnancy or like preconception package right now, including the Hocket, because there's so much infertility. Lauren, our wellness PA, she just put out a post this morning about this urea test that is like for the microbiome of the vagina, and how like these women are getting this test done now because they were under the influence, or they were not under the influence. I hope not. I mean, whatever. They were under the care of OBGYNs. They were like really trying to figure out why they were suffering from infertility. And it's like all these women coming out of the woodwork that are doing these tests where they're like whole, just like the gut microbiome, their whole vaginal microbiome is off. And then identifying which of these factors are off, treating for that. It's like women are getting pregnant left and right. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. The whole concept of just that.
Crazy. And you have to, I don't know, it's in the back of my mind that I kind of feel like all of the plastics that we've been utilizing for years and years and years, come on, that's now they're finding out all of the toxins that have been leaching into our water supply and things like that. Yeah, I mean, we could probably go on for days, but yes, there's definitely something occurring and happening.
And it's like 80-20, right? Like you can't live your life like a psycho and never eat. Like I've recently been using these things called factor meals. Have you ever heard of them?
Yes, yeah.
I actually really like them. Like they're high protein.
My friend uses them. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing is they come in plastic and you heat them up. And I'm like,
yeah, you're like, great.
I'm getting microplastics. Like, I guess I could take them out and put them in a plate. And
you probably don't have the BPA. Are they the?
I don't know. I would hope not. But still, even they've proven that like BPA free still has like, like other BP letters, you know? And so it's just a fight that we have to fight. Our water, everything. Yep. And you know what? I think years and years and years ago, when people were farming their own land and the soil was better, they were getting natural probiotics and they were getting all these things. And now it's like a full-time job to take all the supplements that you're supposed to take. But I just was talking to my dad about this when he was in town. It's like, imagine if you got like the car that you got when you were 16, if that was the only car you were ever going to have, imagine how well you would take care of it. And essentially that's our bodies. And there's a choice to be made. Like how much are you going to invest in terms of your time, your day-to-day activities, your financial budget into yourself? And I think those mom years, like you have 3 children, like those mom years are really tough because you naturally put yourself on the back burner. But I feel like I'm a pretty good advocate for being like, don't do that.
Yeah, I honestly could write a whole book on motherhood and what it does to you. And it's the most rewarding thing in the world. But to be a good parent, you are making sacrifices. And that's just, I don't know any other way to say it or do it. There is going to come a time when your needs are not on the forefront of what needs to happen. So I feel like that's been a huge change in my life, is just launching them from, our household and getting them out into the world has been it's just been so freeing. And then I look at other parents and I look at what they're going through and I see them and I see what their lives are like. And I mean, you've chosen to homeschool, for God's sake. So that you're taking on a whole other, at least I could say, take them from 9 to 3 from me, 8:30 to 3. But yeah, and parenthood is not for the weak. That is for sure. If you're going to do it right.
I know. I have so many young moms in my life right now. And like I see them where I was there, where you will not accept help from anyone. And right. I think like until there's these moments where you physically have to ask for help, it starts to open your window of thought like, I should do this more often. And I feel like I've gotten really good at letting people help me, asking for help, not jumping up and be the first one to do everything with my kids, especially like between me and my husband. Like last night, they were all out on the basketball court, like playing horse and pig and having fun. And I had worked all day. And so I was away from them. But then like I was exhausted and laying on the couch watching Real Housewives. And I, like old Jessica, like of young babies, would have felt so guilty. And like, I got to get up and help too. But it was like, everyone's happy right now. Like, it's okay for me to like take that second to just zone out and be a better mom when I'm ready to plug back in. And
100%.
Like, I don't know. I think if you could give advice to those young moms, what would you say? Like, cause you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm watching some of my injectors go through it right now too. They have little kids and it's tough. It's very hard. And I really try to tell them, you've got to pick your moments where, some things are non-negotiable. Like obviously you want to be there for certain things, but there are other things that you're going to miss. And unfortunately, you're a working parent. That's okay. They're not going to remember. I talk to my kids all the time about the things that they remember and the things that they don't. And they're just like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, don't you remember that one time like I couldn't get to this or I couldn't get to that? And they really do say, they're like, no, I just remember you being there. I mean, I think as far as when they're older, I think they do. I think that's kind of when I took a little bit of a step back from my career, only because my husband worked full time and he was traveling all the time.
Yeah.
And that's when things start to happen where, both parents are working on the weekends and there's a party at your house or that kind of thing. So I just really try to impart not to be so hard on yourself. Give yourself grace, prioritize your relationship, because at the end of the day, it's going to be the two of you.
How is that transition going?
I know I should say I don't love it, but I'm so happy. I mean, I love it. But also my kids are very close by too, which is why we did make the move to the city. One of the reasons they're here, it's easier to see them. We're a very close-knit family, but I don't want to live in the same house with them again. That's for sure. That is for certain. I think that having too many adults in one living space is like, no. So I'm happy that they're successful and well-adjusted human beings. And I think I've done my job in that respect, but I am really enjoying being with my husband for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's like such a good hope story for everyone that worries about what it looks like when they fly the coop. And also I think it's a good reminder to like you said, like prioritize your relationship in the meantime, because you don't want to turn around and be like, who is this that I also live with?
And the fights that we used to have about the division of labor, I mean, those were the fights. Like when I think back on all of the fights that we had, for the most part, that's what it was. Like, oh, you get to go do this, or you're doing that, or, so that's tough. I mean, that is hard. I think someone's always going to feel a little bit more put out because they're the one that's home dealing with all of the mental load. I've talked about that too on other podcasts, like the mental load of parenting and keeping track of doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, the names of their teachers, the names of their friends, what's going on with friend drama. I don't miss it.
Yeah. And I love that you're embracing that and that you've like really fully embraced all of it. So when your kids were young, for the most part, that was way before aesthetics, right?
Yes.
And what kind of nursing did you do before?
So when I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I started in pediatrics, and I just always loved kids. I babysat all the time. I always had a very maternal aspect of my personality, I guess. So I knew I wanted to do work in pediatrics. So from that point, I always worked in pediatrics, whether it be, I started off on just general medical floor, and then went to a cardiac renal floor. I went to the ICU for a while. And then when my kids were little, I graduated with my pediatric nurse practitioner degree, why I decided to go when they were younger, I don't know. That whole piece of the puzzle that I don't understand, but I did it and it was fine. But those were 3 years of hell.
Yeah.
Basic hell. We did have an au pair that lived with us for a while, so that helped with scheduling and things like that, but got through that. And I always did pediatrics. It's funny though, I was thinking about this today about divine interventions and things, letting kind of things come to you and not testing or not asking the universe, or not, how do I say this? Not getting too worked up about things that don't happen that you wish would. And I remember when I first graduated with my nurse practitioner degree, I had it in my head that I wanted to work in the peds ER. And it was just like, I knew that was what was going to happen. I was going to go work in the peds ER. So many people warned me about the specific hospital and that emergency room about like, they're not the most welcoming. They're a tough group of people. I don't know if you should work there. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this. I've got this. Applied for a job there. And I remember I didn't hear back from them for a while. And I mean, I stalked this woman. I was like, no, you're going to hire me. Like, no, I'm going to work here. I want to work here. I think they even hired someone else. And then that person like only lasted like 3 months. Should have been like a warning bell to me. But I took the job, and holy hell was I miserable for a year of absolute misery. I used to cry before I have to go to work.
Oh,
it was horrible. It was the worst. So I don't know. I just feel like sometimes when you push too much and you kind of going against what the universe has in store for you or plans, I think is not the right way to go about it. But
wait, that is so true. I think about that all the time with even people that you hire and then aren't the right fit.
Totally,
like, do not hold on to them. Let them go. Let them tell whatever story they need to tell about how it went down. like it is just so powerful to let things play out and to really lean into what your gut is telling you, because your gut does not lead you astray. And I feel like both of us are pretty in tune with our intuition and like know what the right answer is.
Yeah. Anytime we've had to let someone go, or it's just been the best thing for our environment. And you look back and think, why did I make that decision? Like, why did I think that person was a good fit when really you knew that person was not a good fit? But you kind of tried to convince yourself otherwise.
It's a muscle, like it's a muscle that you work out. And the more that you work that muscle of just culture and overall symbiosis with your team, I think that it's much easier to identify when someone is not aligned. And sometimes people are aligned and then they become not aligned. And like letting them go doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's like, I'm giving you the gift of moving on to some greener pastures for you. And this is no longer something that is well-meaning for my business. And again, they can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, it's just honestly a gift to them, a gift to yourself, a gift to your team, because always your team feels so much better.
Yeah, I love that you said that too, because you're right. They could have been the right fit for you at the time, but may not be in the same growth mindset that you are, or not willing to move to the next level with you. And that's okay too. Like you said, thank the universe, bless you. I send you out into the world. I hope you do well. And that's fine.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting though? There's such a fine line with that, like with letting someone go, but not letting them walk all over you. I think we've all been in situations where like, just because you're all good with that part doesn't mean that you still don't enforce like the process that you put into place of like walking away. There's still agreements in place that people forget about, of how to move on and how to have cadence and like moving to the next stage.
Yes. I have a saying, I come in peace, but I mean business. So
good.
I'm not going to be a peaceful human being and person. But no, the walking all over you is not going to happen.
Yes. Okay. I want to ask too, because I was curious about this. Both of us worked with Kaylee Lindholm. We got to work with her one-on-one and then also in the academy. And I feel like that really was so transformational for me as a leader. Like, what do you feel like Danielle before and Danielle after? Like, what was the biggest transformation for you with business coaching in terms of like within your business?
Such a good question. There's so many. Honestly, one of the biggest takeaways, I always kind of had it in the back of my mind, but it really strengthened and reinforced it, was it's not what I need. It's not what you need. This is what the business needs. So whatever is best for the business is what needs to happen. It's not like the decision that I make, or if I'm telling somebody they can't have time off or whatever, I'm not telling you that. The business is telling you that. Does that make yes, I'm a leader. And yes, of course, I want to impart that I am leading this business, but I have to think with that mindset that it's what is best for this business. I think that's helped people understand where I'm coming from a lot of the times when I'm talking, but that and just having the proper systems in place before you think you need them, because by the time you think you need them, it's too late. Like you need them because that's also going to take a lot of the subjectiveness and a lot of the emotions out of making leadership decisions. If you've got a process in place, then that's what needs to happen. We do things here. And Kaylee was very strong in drilling that in. And I think that even when I first started, I was kind of like, oh, whatever. We'll have things for some processes, but we'll have SOPs for some processes. But I think, I don't know, I feel like if I had to say, just start from the very beginning with that in mind.
That's always my biggest piece of advice too. Like act like you're going to have 50 locations, even though you think it's just a one-woman show to start.
That is so freaking...
Like, wouldn't it have been easier? Like even all the people that I've looked at, like hiring, where like you start with one compensation plan and then like someone else comes in a different tier, so to speak, not really tier, but like in a different level of experience. And so then you're like, and then like, it's just like, make everything the same, streamline your compensation, like make it make sense, make it representative of growth. If growth mindset is part of your business and your core values, like it's so interesting. I wish that I would have, everything happens for a reason. Like these, like you said, like these are all messages from the universe. And I'm glad that we grabbed onto it as early on as our business, because God willing, this is going to be a long legacy type of a business. But I think that if we would have been able to embrace those things before, like it would have taken emotion out of things in terms of conversations, relationship, like nothing is personal in these negotiations, especially when you've set it up before that person even gets involved in the situation.
100, absolutely. So that I would have to say is such good business advice. And I liked what you said about having that mindset you're going to have 50 locations or act as if you have 50 locations, because that is, I'm not saying that's not where I'm going, but
same.
Yeah, exactly. Like God bless the people that can. But yeah, I feel like it saves you from a lot of uncomfortableness, ugly conversations, people's feelings getting hurt because facts don't have feelings.
Right.
These are the facts.
You have such good one-liners like that.
I've grasped onto a few that really spoke to me. And
it's so true. You said in one of your podcasts with Kaylee, you said clear is kind, which I think is so true. And facts don't have feelings. Those are two. We need to create a whole alphabet like that.
Embroider them on sweatshirts. Clear is kind. And that's another thing too, is like an SOP, completely clear as day. This is how we operate here. This is how we do things. And like I said, the mistakes I've made in the past, probably I haven't been as clear as I needed to be. And it's not fair to that other person either. So I'm not proud. There were conversations in the distant past that I feel like I could have done better.
For sure.
But that's why we seek out help from people like Kaylee, from other consultants and people that are podcasts like yours, because we want to do better.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's when you look at a team member, you're and Kaylee taught me this too. It's if they're not meeting expectations, have you been really clear about what the expectation is? And are you giving them the resources to do it? And that really cleared things up for me so much, because that's always my first question to someone when I sit down with them to really talk about okay, this isn't going the way that I anticipated it, but I want to be sure, are you clear on this? And what other resources could I potentially be giving you that you don't have or you don't know you have access to?
Right.
Something that we just revisited recently was Trainual. It's online.
I heard you say that. I'm totally going to jump on that.
Okay, so it's literally this whole online platform where you can do a lot of different things. But how we're doing it is we're building our company playbook within it. So it has all of your roles, an org chart, which is super clear. You could onboard 50 people at the same time if you wanted to. And then it has groups. So I have my patient care coordinator group, my aesthetic injectors, my estheticians, team leads, everyone, and so then you can assign things per group or to everyone. And so it breaks it up into company policies and processes. And so your SOPs go in processes. For example, your dress code goes in policies, a new hire, they know when to show up, where to park, what we do for lunch typically. It just takes all the stress out of all those things. And it's just so much less stress on your team when you're bringing someone new in and they're training them, because it's here's your playbook, here's your resource, here's everyone on our team, and you know what to do, how often, and how to do it. It's so great. And then it's just there, it's an online resource that you didn't have to spend time building, but everything's housed there. It's great.
Yeah, that is so amazing. Yeah, I heard you say that on your podcast, and I remember thinking I need to check into that. I mean, we have all those things, but they're more
right. It's kind of same.
Yeah.
They start to get here, there, people forget about them. I forget about them. I went back and revisited some of the SOPs, and a former employee had put them together, and it's oh, I'm pretty sure you just used Chat GPT to write this. And this isn't actually what we do as a check-in in the morning, because also it's changed,
and people sell the SOPs too. The other med spa owners will sell theirs. And it's okay, well, is that really what you're going to do? Or is this just...
Right. Are you checking a box, or is
just so you can have a binder that says SOP? That's
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that are marketed in this business to people who are struggling. And I went through a lot of different business coaches before I found...
You did?
Oh, yes,
well,
I did.
I feel like the Lord saved me and sent me right to Kaylee. Thank God.
Yeah, no,
what was your process like there?
3 other ones. One of them, obviously we're not going to get into names, but
no, definitely not names.
One of them was more and she had worked for plastic surgeons, and, I was definitely not of the scale that I needed to be to work with her probably, but of course she took my money, and she made some good offerings or advice. I took a few things from her, but what it cost me, it was just crazy. I remember one of her pieces of advice was never do online scheduling. And I remember thinking to myself, you're not using the mindset of where my ideal client is coming from, because my ideal client is up at 4 o'clock in the morning, probably with their kids or whatever the case may be. And they are going to book online, because I knew myself and what I was a busy mother.
Like there's nothing worse than calling to make a Botox appointment.
Oh my God, it's like torture. I would never want to do that. So I knew in the back of my head, I'm like, I think we're not on the same page here. So there, what was it? Another one was just let's kind of chat on the phone, and it's more like therapy. And I'm like, I need a therapist.
She's like, tell me about that fight with your husband.
Exactly. It's just a very strange dynamic that didn't work. So yeah, I mean, you do have to do your research. And I did kind of feel burned. And I remember getting those DMs. I would get like some DMs and things like that from Kaylee, or I remember thinking, God, is this going to be one more thing that I'm just signing up for? And yeah.
I remember when I first signed up for her, I was like, you want me to show up on a Wednesday and a Friday you want me to block my schedule and show up? And for the first couple of weeks, I was like, this is optional. And then I was like, no, I'm going to go all in with this because it's different. Like I can feel it. And it was so transformational. And it actually, above all the things that I learned that were amazing, one of the things that I really learned is like carving out, like I was still seeing patients 5 days a week.
Oh, you're the one that helped me make that decision. Yeah.
Oh, that was huge. I feel like more of us need to lead the way in that. Like that's a huge example, because we think we have to be the provider and we think we have to wear that hat or else we're going to lose it. There is no way to scale when you are the provider. You can't. And so slowly, as I pulled away, and maybe this resonates with you too, like as I took those times for myself and to work on the business, I loved it, number one. And number two, as I started to take more and more time to work on the business outside of even just those meetings, I started to feel really annoyed when I had to see patients, because it was slowing me down from doing the things that were pushing my business forward.
Yeah, it has allowed me to just be so much more motivated, allowed me to think more creatively. I can clear my mind. I can actually have a life outside of work too, which is great, because I was feeling suffocated. I was feeling like, oh my God, if I'm not on my feet for 10 hours a day, I'm never going to make money. I'm not going to. As soon as I dropped that and just took, again, another leap of faith and just said, if we drop in revenue a little bit, which is probably going to happen for a while, no one's not going to eat. It'll be okay. Let's just, you said, you got to do it. And I remember thinking, I really do have to do it, because I would look in the mirror and just be like, I want to cry. I'm going to work again today. I want to cry. And then I would use my work days, my times in between patients, trying to get like administrative stuff done. And then I'm getting sidetracked, and then I'm not giving my patient the focus that they need when I go back into the room. So it wasn't fair to anyone. And the minute I decided to slow down, and also now, not that I'm not in the mindset right now of selling to like private equity or selling to anybody, but I've heard from several of those companies that the less you are involved in your business, the more valuable it is.
Yeah.
So that to me is also just validating.
Yeah. Well, my company, like when I decided to stop being a provider altogether, that first year, it took a $1.5 million revenue hit.
Sure. Yeah.
And so then it took like the trust. It's like that J curve that Kaylee talks about, where it's like that, like you want to go back to the beginning, because like you start off on this platform, you kind of jump, you're like, okay, this is what we're doing. And then like people fall off, your revenue's falling off. And it's so uncomfortable that instead of pushing past that discomfort, a lot of people go back to the beginning and they just can't do it. And they stay stuck and they continue to hate their business and like be bitter and resentful. And like, they're like, this isn't fun. And so by pushing past that and building those systems and building those processes and focusing, like I get to focus on growth and scale all the time. And sometimes too much, because I'm like, so much is changing. Like, you're so smart that you're just adding bioidentical hormones. And like seeing how that feels, I was like, let's do gut, let's do weight loss, let's do bioidentical. And so now we're going back and building some of the infrastructure to that. But it took a while to get the revenue back to what it was and to get people to trust in the rest of my team. It just took a lot. And I'm so grateful that I had Kaylee to like link arms with, because I don't know that I would have been strong enough to fight against all the opinions of people telling me, like, what are you doing? Like, you're a PA, like, this is what you should be doing. And I am a PA, but I'm also an entrepreneur. And I really love what I'm doing. I read a book recently that talked about this ABC model. And it's like, I can't remember the exact acronym of what ABC stood for, but it's from Dan Sullivan. He talked about like A activities are the activities that you like wake up excited for and zest, like you building the bioidentical hormones, like being in that space, like telling women about it. B activities are activities that you used to do, but no longer feel like that exciting A activity anymore.
Yep.
And then the C activities are the activities where you're like, I hate this. And who can I like delegate this to? Or maybe it needs to like go by the wayside and not be something that we do anymore, or streamline it or outsource it or whatever. And that was so interesting because I feel like it really convicted me to go back to that every quarter. Like, what activities and how am I spending my time, and just being super intentional and aware of how I'm spending my time and do I like it? And I started to feel like working for other companies, like whether it's training or speaking or traveling or doing a lot of those things that I thought made me who I was in my business and built my brand and also served a purpose at the time. They started to feel really annoying. And I was like, wow, it's really hard to take this like identity off, but I'm going to, because it's now a B activity and sometimes even a C. It was hard because I feel like a lot of us hold our ego in some of those relationships. I don't know how you feel, but I started to feel like that.
I do feel like sometimes people, because you're good at something, they think that that's what you should be doing. And it's not always what you enjoy the most. Yes, I'm good at different things, but it's not really what I want to be doing. So that's the hard part, is getting, you're right, like other people's opinions out of your head about what they think you should be doing.
Yeah.
That is very helpful to have other entrepreneurs to kind of encourage you and get you over that hump, because that is a huge hump. And you're right. You are so tempted to go back to the beginning and be like, oh my God, I'm going to go back and start scheduling. But
do you feel the same thing? Because I fight all the time to not add, like, I'm like, ooh, what if I just did full facial balancing?
No.
Or what if I just did threads? Because I used to like sling 5 thread lifts all day. And like, first of all, it was so rewarding. I like had the skill. There's not a lot of people that can do it super well. And it was a lot of revenue for our practice.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I do things, if I enjoy them, I'll do them. Like I love doing threads. I love doing, so that to me is not even so much about the revenue, is about, I don't want to give that up. I'm not ready to give that up yet, but I feel like I have a good balance now. I'm just in the treatment room a day and a half, and it's great for me, a day and a half a week.
And for me, even just doing that, I still had patients, like I still was just like sometimes seeing Botox all day because my patients like would not try other providers. I fully had, like I would warm transfer them to other providers, and then they would pop back on my schedule. And I was like, this is really it's very frustrating.
This is what's really been great about offering the hormones, is I've been seeing that my patients who have seen the other providers for the hormones are now scheduling with their Dysport or Botox appointments with them, even for my patients. So because I think they're so fearful, but they get to know that provider and they're like, wait, she's like actually really nice and really does know what she's talking about. And it's just getting over that first initial.
That's so true.
And they're fine.
Because they message me all the time. Now they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you recommended her. She's perfect for me. And so it is this beautiful. And so sometimes, again, like, I'm like, okay, well, now they're with her. Like now I could just step in and just do this. But also I worry that you can't go back and forth. And like, I think that there's always, my friend taught me this, there's always an invitation and a temptation. And the temptation is that I want to see patients again for certain things. But I think that the invitation is really to ask myself, what does success look like? And if I want to continue to scale and to continue to focus on these A activities, I have to continue to trust my team that they're doing what they love. And part of being a leader too is not always doing what you want. And that's something that I recognized as well. Like that was a hard thing for me to realize, but I don't always get to do everything that I love.
Yeah. Sometimes I just have to ask myself, what would the CEO of the company do? I mean, would they be worrying about uniform policies, and are they going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, or are you going to let your office manager deal with that? You don't, or different nuances of the business. Like would a CEO or even think about plastic surgeons who run their own practices. Are they going to get involved in like the spec between these two employees? No, they're going to let the office manager handle it. They have no. So yes, just thinking as you want in that elevated position, or coming from that position of, I'm not wording it correctly, but you know what I'm saying? Like if you're the CEO of General Mills, let's say, are they worrying about, someone having a hairnet on in the line. No, they're not going to deal with that. Someone else is going to deal with that.
Yes. Wait, one thing I want to ask you before we close up, because I don't want to take any more of your time, but you guys purchased a place in Florida, and
that's the question that everyone asks.
I know.
Are you going to place in Florida?
What do you think? Because I have my thoughts on that, and you and I had a different discussion like when I saw you last in person. And so I just wonder what you think, and I'll tell you where I am.
So where I'm coming from right now is I don't have any desire to work in Florida. That is like my sanctuary, my place that I just want to go and relax and be, with my family and vacation there. I just don't. And people cannot fathom that. They're like, what do you mean? Be new number two. And for me right now, I don't want to do it. And there's something telling me not to. And it's just, that's how I'm feeling. I liked what you had to say the other day of you may have been feeling that at one point, but you know what? You changed your mind and that's okay. Like you don't need to have everything set in stone if this is the plan that you may change your mind. I may change my mind 10 years from now. I don't know, but how I'm going to answer that question right now is I don't feel like working on my vacations.
Yeah. I think that's so valid. And why was I wrestling so hard? Like I could also have a place in Florida eventually. And like that can be a place that I get to recharge and I get to go to with my family. And why do I feel like I have to have a place of work to justify being there? I think overachievers sometimes have to take a hard look in the mirror and appreciate what we've achieved and the positions that we've put ourselves in to be able to even work somewhat remotely and manage our mothership back in the Midwest.
Yes. And I know myself too. And I know that I'm not good about juggling or having things under control in 50 million different places or out of state. I just know myself and it doesn't interest me, but people are different. And like I said, God bless if that's something that you are good at and can do. But I think that's tough.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Then we're going to see each other and party in Florida or sit on the beach and, wear our sunscreen.
We're going to go and relax and lots of things. Yeah.
Well, I'm so grateful for this time today with you. And I just think this is just such a good conversation. Like we didn't really know what was going to come out of our mouths, but it's a conversation in, I think, having the self-worth to identify when things are off, trusting your gut, advocating for yourself when in your whole wellness journey, advocating for yourself in those years of motherhood from someone who has been through all the stages thus far, someone who's in the thick of it, but where it's getting a little easier. And we can now shed light on women who need to empower themselves. I think also in terms of business, I think there's a calmness about both of us that we didn't maybe have before we went through business coaching together.
That's so true. That is so true.
Don't you feel like a chill, cool cat now?
I can honestly, I see other people out in the wild and acting cool. And I'm like,
a feral cat. And we're just like,
you need to
house cats.
You need to give some advice. Yeah, exactly. So anyone who's out there and who's struggling with parenthood or I don't know, anything.
Just feeling out of control of their systems.
DM me. I will give you all the empowerment you need. That's for sure.
Or point you into the right directions of maybe some systems that can help or people that can help.
Yes.
And last question, because I feel like we're similar in this too. I took all these different hormone trainings and I've put together my own best practices. And so that's why now I'm creating my own training because I get asked all the time by other providers how to incorporate wellness into aesthetics. And then don't you feel like then you can easily onboard your own team members too and train from the ground up? Do you see yourself creating some sort of training for hormones?
Probably not at this juncture. I don't think it's going to come at least anytime soon. I like I said, empowering women to take control of their health. I like being the actually provider. Being able to give advice on it. And I still have a lot to learn, I think. And I'm not at that point. And I don't think we'll be training on it anytime soon for sure. But there's so many good providers out there that if you're starting a hormone training program, you're going to do amazing. So
yeah, well, at least we're close. You can send them my way. And if you have anyone looking in this area, I am happy to treat them. And then obviously I have so many people out in Chicago, which I'm so happy to know that you're treating now, and you're treating men and women.
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, well, yay.
How many men have reached out? That's the other thing too, is I didn't know how men would feel about coming to a med spa mostly run by women, and they don't care. They're like, no, my wife wants me to come. So,
Yes. I feel like a lot of times the wives send them. So keep sending them, ladies.
Yeah.
They need it too.
And you can tell too what symptoms they're having,
Optimized together.
Yep.
Well, thank you. This has been a riveting chat. I'm so glad that we've gotten to do this.
I miss your face.
I miss you too. Where are we going to see each other next? What are you going to?
I know I'm going to Subio in November. Just kind of want to, that's it. I have a hard time with conferences lately. I just feel like, and also the ones that start in the fall, that's our busy season. That's when I need to be more. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go to LAMCA again in March. I'm not sure.
Maybe I will too. I have like nothing on the docket except wellness stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to the international, maybe you should go to this. It's an international like integrative medicine. I think it's like IMIC in September. And actually, I think it's like in Indianapolis. So it's close.
It is close.
I'll have to send you the info.
We have to reach out to Blair too and try to get her out in the wild with us.
That was fun. I loved eating sushi in bed all together at our last conference.
Party. Yes, totally. We are so like-minded though. We're going to bed. Like, I'm not going to the next party. Nope. I'm not going to go to the club. No, nope. Girlfriend is going to bed with her snacks.
I will not be bringing glitter gowns. I'll be bringing pajamas. Oh my God, all we did was we laid in bed and talked about your sleep aid.
Was so good. Yes. And I have one now too, the sleep aid.
Yes. My friend just bought it. I haven't bit the bullet on it yet because I'm not really having too many problems, but sleep aid, shout out to you.
I wonder if I would have needed it because at the time I wasn't doing the HRT.
Oh, that's interesting. See, my routine, I pump a pump of my Quicksilver progesterone on my belly. I spray my feet with magnesium, and like homegirl is out for the count. And my Aura ring is like conked out, deep sleep, REM sleep, wake up. And I'm like, where am I?
Were you roofied last night? That's what the Aura ring wants to know.
Yep. Totally. It's like I'm picking up GHB. All right. Well, this has been so fun. Until next time, thank you so much for joining me, Danielle.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care, Jess.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Curated Beauty Podcast. If today's discussion sparked your curiosity, or if you're ready to take the next steps in your wellness journey, we invite you to explore our new virtual wellness tool. It's an easy and convenient way to assess your needs and connect with our expert team for personalized guidance. Visit our website, beautyculturespa.com, to get started, because your health and beauty deserve nothing but the best. Until next time, stay radiant and take care.